This episode contains explicit spoilers for the Lightbringer novel, sixth book in Pierce Brown's Red Rising series.
Fate to Obsidian is not liable for loss of limb, loss of sensation, financial destitution, or psychological trauma caused by the series. Any damage sustained, please see your local yellow medical provider or psychiatrist.
This episode also includes adult language and themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome everybody to this episode of Fade to Obsidian. I'm Skipper, joined as always by Crescent, and this week we have a very special guest of Philip from Hail Reaper. Welcome, Philip!
Hello. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah,
I told you off mic before we started. The reason I wanted to be on Fade to Obsidian is just selfishly to meet both of you. So I have nothing interesting to say or of value. It's just really a hangout.
Yeah.
That is my reasoning.
Anyway.
Yeah. That's my reasoning for being here.
I love it. Well, we've kind of been doing that all of September. We've had Twist from Fabled Spirit is named the Legend Legion, kind of joining, hanging out. So I'm so glad that you're here to hang out with us. It's so much fun.
Yeah. That's the only part of the den that I've been active in. I lurk in other places, but I honestly am such a noob when it comes to Discord that I feel it's like I want to be more in the den, and I'm like, what's happening? How do you do this?
And the den has so many channels.
It's way more comprehensive than the Hail Reaper one, which is only probably 100-ish people, and way more. The navigation is just because there's less people, there's less to navigate through. And you all have hundreds more people, and so there's more to siphon through, and more more unique opinions, more unique channels, and I appreciate that and I like that there is such diversity in there, but also it just overwhelms me. I wish I could be more invested in it.
Yeah, for sure. We always say the thing to do is to try not to be in every conversation. It's just pick one and also just jump into them, because sometimes people are like, what's even happening in comms? It's doesn't matter. Just say good morning and someone will start a conversation with you.
I've learned that about Discord. Someone will pick it up for you. If you throw even a general sentiment like good morning or I had birthday cake today or whatever, someone's got to just tap into that with you eventually. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have your Oracle, right? Is your Howler name?
Oracle. Yeah, that's
my
name.
How'd you get that?
You know what? I don't remember. So the story is going to be very, it's not going to be very fascinating, but I'll give a shout out to Sub-Zero, who is the namer in our Discord, and she gives fantastic names. I love the names she gives, and we gave her that role because she was kind of coincidentally doing it. She just happened to come up with the best names of anyone, and then so we just installed her as that's her responsibility, and she does a fantastic job. Everyone's name is just always cool. There's some overlap. Awesome. I've seen different checkmates from the den, or I don't think she's borrowing. I don't think she's even a part of the den, so I think she's not spying on the good names that you all have. Yeah. But there are some a little bit of overlap, but they're all awesome names anyway. So it's who cares if there's two checkmates, because that's a really killer name.
Yeah. Well, we have 2 summits.
Okay.
And I was we kind of started freaking out. We're what do we do? What do we do? Obviously you guys can both keep your names.
Yeah.
But I was okay, who's taller?
That's actually good. Especially for summit.
And
that's hilarious.
So we now have Everest and K2.
Oh, that's super cool. Great idea.
So they get the call sign in there.
I think I know one of the summits. I think they're on Discord as well. I'm guessing. So, but yeah, that's really cool. K2s, and what was the other one?
Everest.
Both
the tallest
killer.
mountain in the slightly shorter tall mountain.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, even though the tallest mountain, Everest, I think she's only 5'7", and she was since when is that mountain height? Yeah. And it's it doesn't matter. Yeah, pretty funny. But yeah, how did Hail Reaper come about? How did you guys start podcasting?
After finishing Dark Age, it's it's verbal processing. All how it came about is the desire to process. Largely, I think that's what I think that's probably, I'm guessing, how most of us arrived at that place as well. Like maybe you guys, that was like the way you arrived there. Like I need to process some of this, and why not do it on a microphone?
Yeah.
That was my thinking, and I just had such large emotions about 6 days after Dark Age. I called Jeremy and I was like, "Have you heard of Red Rising?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, read it." And he's like, "Cool. And if you like it, let's start a podcast." It was a longer conversation, but that's essentially like I can summarize the entire conversation in 2 sentences, and that's what happened. I went out with him for dinner like a few days later. He had read all of Red Rising in a few days. He was already in like the first part of Golden Sun. He was like, "This is sick. I'm down. Let's do this." But then like a lot of like kind of stuff happened to kind of get in the way. COVID was one of those things that kind of got in the way, and we really wanted to do it in person. Jeremy and I have known each other. We've been best friends since we were 15.
Oh,
And
awesome.
so we felt like we wanted to make sure it was done in person, and we actually didn't. I think we did a lot of our podcasts remote, but we actually did some, like about maybe 7 or 8 of them, 6 feet apart in a room. Like we had this old office space that we had access to, with no AC, upstairs. It was hideous as well, and it sounded terrible. Like the audio quality was just, that room was just it just killed our audio quality. But we just sat like really far apart from each other, and our producer Tim at the time sat also like way like 12 feet away on the other side of the room, and that's how we recorded a lot of our like initial podcasts. So it was again, it's just really just about like that verbal processing and just wanting to share that with someone and see how your opinions differ.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's been a journey to start that, and then have that worldwide pandemic interruption, and then wanting that to be your main hobby, and then realizing it kind of can't be a little bit, and then trying to find ways to make it work. And
That's
also,
awesome.
I brought a water bottle, and my mouth is like constantly dry.
Oh yeah, no worries. I've got, well, as you do that, I've got my water bottle, which we've got your sticker on it.
Oh yeah, nice, cool.
I'm missing. I need Howler
It's on a black
pods
bottle, so
Yeah,
it's hard to see,
that looks
but-
dope.
because I got Words and Whiskey as well. The Den.
Yeah.
I need Howler pods sticker and our own.
You-
I don't even have
do you
a
have
paid
your-
sticker.
Do you have your marked safe from HowlerCon sticker on there?
No, because mine's on my book. I put my marked safe from HowlerCon on my Lightbringer book because it barely got marked safe from HowlerCon. It got left in the bar a couple times. Salem had to confiscate it from me.
I'm assuming it was like probably a special like signed copy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it needed to be saved
Here,
as well, right?
let me
Yeah.
roll over here.
Do it.
Yeah, because I've got, I don't know where I have so many copies at this point because I went to so many signings. So yeah, I put it at the bottom of my
That's
book
cool.
there. It says Mark
That's
Safe.
awesome.
And it says in it 3 times Victra, and then Pierce signed it at the bottom to Skipper. But like,
Just
I like
signed
at the
your
beginning.
name, that's it.
Well, because he knew I already had one that said Alicia. And then, 3 times Victra was what he wrote across the top. And then I was like, but, like, I'm dressed as Victra. And he's like, oh, what do you want it? Like, and he was very confused to not sign it to Victra. It's like,
Yeah.
it's okay. Fine.
Cool.
He had had a few drinks after that. Yeah. He had that was directly after he had stolen my drink to Den Dunk. So
I heard that he had a large number of drinks at that event.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he was
It was a
loving
party,
life.
though.
He had a
would, like,
great time.
It was
Yeah.
a party, right?
Oh yeah, I think most of us had quite a few drinks at that point in the night.
I didn't get to go, but I know that I would be the observer in that situation. I'm such a lightweight. I drink two is tap out, like done.
Right.
Like, because I'm also like, I think the first time I had a beer, like this is really dumb. The first time I had a beer, I didn't realize how it would make me feel for some reason. I didn't realize that like drinking and fuzziness are correlated things. And then I was like, oh, this is terrible. Like, what if I need to go somewhere? What if what if I need to like drive to go pick someone up or whatever it might be? Like, what if like my sister got in an accident and needed me to be there? And so I have this like anxiety fear over being
no. Yeah.
incapacitated. And I have no issue with the idea of it. I just can't get over this mental hump. So it's like, and just 2 drinks literally. I'm like just fall asleep tired. Like I'm so
Yeah.
exhausted. So I would probably have a lot of fun watching all of you have a party at that.
Yeah, it was quite the party. But even like there was a few people who weren't totally drinking.
Yeah.
Seeing how I got in a car with a Howler, so I'm hoping they weren't drunk. Just randomly was getting in cars, but
retroactively crossing your fingers.
yeah, I was like, this will be fine. I'm still alive. But it was
fine.
a lot.
This is fine. Dog meme burning the house.
Yeah.
It was a lot of that the whole night of like, what's happening? Where are we going? It's fine.
Cool. We're good.
It's all the Howlers hanging out.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we all had each other's
There was
back.
a pack of like 30 of us.
Just making our way
I
around.
mean, 700 of us at one point, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then
I listened
the after
to-
party.
I listened to like, I think you even titled the episode like "No Shade in Tulsa," and I had no clue what that meant. I was like, is this like some sort of like town motto or like what is this, right? And then the first thing you guys all say, it's like it's damn hot here, and I'm like, yeah, like I actually didn't put that together. I don't know why I would think that Tulsa wouldn't be scorching hot, but yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah,
So if it's in Tulsa next year, I hope to go, but I'm already dreading the heat. And like as a fellow ginger, like it just like instant burn, instant.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so sensitive to that. It sucks. So
yeah.
I'm weird.
We're hoping if it's Tulsa that they pick like a spring or the fall. Like April would be fine. I think it was August was the problem, and like, yeah, it was nuts, but it was super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked
Yeah,
awesome.
it was such a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully next year, if they whatever month it's the
Whatever month we'll all go.
Yeah.
We should do an in-person us at like podcast and Howler pod because they were there and they were
just
a
like
lot
big
of fun.
pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope to bring some gear if we were to go to bring some like we have some cool like lapel mics that we could probably hook up and use that like to travel and we can like little packs that we can put in so we can just always have them on and carry them around like in our pockets and stuff like that. So
That'd be so fun.
that would be the goal. It would just to bring our lapel mics and hook them up to other people and follow their experience.
See what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can capture that and then translate that audio at some point.
Yeah, that'd be
Also,
great.
Yeah, we were planning to podcast in person while we
Yeah.
were down there.
Because you're not
but
living.
I howled. No,
You don't live super near
like,
each other.
Not at all.
We're like half the country away.
Toronto and where are you, Crescent?
I'm in Saskatchewan.
My Canadian geography
It's
is
basically
awful.
dead center of the country.
It's above
It's right
Montana.
north of North Dakota and Montana.
North
Oh,
Dakota.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I know
Yeah.
I lived in the Northwest for a long time, so I know where Vancouver is. I know where
Yeah.
Toronto is.
Oh,
just
yeah.
just because it's Toronto, and that's like
Yeah.
it. That's like I just know
Yeah.
that they're like
Yeah.
far apart.
Well,
I'm
in
like
between those is
17 Yeah, I'm
Saskatchewan.
like 17 hours east of Vancouver, and I'm like 34.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hours
It's
west of Toronto.
Yeah, massive country. Makes
Canada's
sense.
big.
Yeah.
It's very big. Just looking at the map is like a little intimidating. Dang, it's big.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well,
cool,
the
though.
first
I wanna-
time we met, because we're pretty much only virtual, first time we met is because I took a train from Vancouver to Toronto, and like Saskatoon was one of the stops, so he showed up at the train station, and for like
Sick.
15 minutes we got to hang out, and then I got back on the train. But then it was another it was 96 hours. So it's like I saw him, and then another 2 days later I got back to Toronto.
Wow. What was the purpose for the trip? If you don't
Just
mind me asking.
fun. It was just
Nice.
fun. So I actually flew to LA and hung out with a bunch of Howlers that I've known for years because of Twitter in Los Angeles. And then a bunch of us went up to Seattle for Emerald City Comic Con. And then from there I was like, actually I took the train from LA to Seattle and then Seattle to Vancouver and Vancouver all the way across. And that Vancouver to Toronto was just to see what it was like.
Yeah, just to check it out. That's cool. That
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah, she got to get off the train in the prairies in early March,
Yeah.
and it was pretty close to -40 that day.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's-
gosh.
It's so
That's
frigid.
crazy town.
As it so frequently is.
Yeah.
I'm not good with colds, but it's also pretty hot here. It's like depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
But we're in Central California, so it can be pretty warm. But cold is my enemy. Even though I like the idea of it, every time I get inside of it, I'm like, this sucks so bad. Just can't do it.
Yeah.
But even though I don't know, I wish I had more of a tolerance for it.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I like the cold, but it's like, oh, I can bundle up. I don't like the Saskatchewan cold, I've discovered, because that, 5 minutes of just... Well, it was funny, because he was coming into the train station, I, ran out, and then immediately was like, this is a terrible idea, and ran back into the train station. I was like, no, you come in here. I'm not going out there.
So I can walk right back.
Yeah. So it was fun.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend.
I've never experienced anything like that, so I can't say anything.
This is
my recommendation
Howler
is-
Con in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
It's a good
See,
rhyme.
even
I like the
rhymes, you have to do
alliteration.
it.
I would be down if it was just for the rhyme. Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's welcome to Canadian Thanksgiving or the weekend after. I'm going to see Crescent. Everyone's invited to come in October.
And it
Okay.
will only be a little bit chilly.
Yeah, it'll be
Okay,
fine.
cool.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Canadian Thanksgiving. We're doing it.
Yep.
It'll be fun.
I need to get up there to just check out Canada more. I think just in general, I want to. But I'd probably go during summertime.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's definitely fair. I get all the, if you want to do touristy Canada, you got to come to me because I get Toronto and Niagara Falls.
Okay.
So
I
get all the
yeah.
touristy points.
I always liked the idea of going to Toronto. I know we're just talking about this is the Red Rising Geography podcast now, but I always wanted to go to Toronto. And then this is weird, but after seeing the Pixar movie Turning Red, now I really want to go. I'm like, that place looks dope. And even though it's a cartoon, it made me want to go even more.
Yeah, the Sky Dome is real. It was. I passed it today. The dome was open because the Blue Jays were playing. So Turning Red. It's real. Yeah.
Yeah, good movie, fun movie too.
Such a fun movie.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, getting a little bit back on track. We discussed for a second there alcohol. What are you drinking? And I hear you have a special surprise.
Yeah, I'll talk about what I'm drinking real fast.
Yeah.
And that is gotta open the right app first. I'm doing a Hendrix gin. This is Neptuna, and this is from Botanicals, coast of Scotland.
Ooh,
I haven't tried this
Nice.
before. So I'm like a California gin guy because it's just it's available pretty obviously in abundance, and
Yeah.
I like the Botanicals of California. But I'm gonna try this out right now.
Nice.
Get back on microphone, and yeah, I do have a surprise. I wanted to do this, and I have a golden Oreo,
Yes.
and I have my G&T. I'm prepared for this to taste absolutely awful, but I'm gonna dunk it right now with
Yes.
this really
Yep.
lovely
We're here
gin.
for it.
Oh,
I
here we
like
go.
it.
Is it fully submerged, like the whole cookie, or is it half the cookie? What's the best? Tell me how I should do this.
We've been doing.
That's the Howler energy. Is
Yeah, you gotta
full send.
full send.
Yeah,
Wait for it to bubble.
Okay.
It'll
Okay, it's
bubble.
bubbling. So is that because it's capturing? It's the air of between the sandwich.
I
Is
guess.
that what- Okay, I'm gonna buy it off camera though because
Yeah.
I don't want to drip all over my stuff here. I actually like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's
actually
how.
good.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I first did mine. I did it in Crown Royal,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I hate that I don't hate it.
That it actually tastes really good. I'm not joking. I'd do that again.
Yes. This is the thing is everyone's like, oh, it's supposed to be gross. And I'm like, no, it just started as it's supposed to be weird. and
No,
then we
that was-
discovered
Yeah.
what the good
That
ones
was-
are.
Because the vanilla ones, like the golden Oreos, are a little sweeter naturally,
Yeah.
I think, than the chocolate ones. Because chocolate's more bitter by its nature, right? And that just made it taste like alcohol, and that was awesome. I liked it a
Perfect.
lot. Okay.
Yeah.
I learned something new today that I'm probably going to be putting into practice more often. Cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
We've also learned that it kind of fucks you up pretty quick.
Oh, does it?
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Don't
if
do
you're
too many.
Because the sugar.
If you're doing-
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Must be. Because if
Yeah.
you're doing it in straight whiskey, like I did 3, and I was like, "Ooh, I am feeling
Well,
it."
I ate before I came, knowing that this is, I'm going to be drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Have something in my stomach, but I can see if, like, even on a quasi-empty stomach, if you're just combining the alcohol with sugar, that's totally gonna like be, because it's not like there's nothing to absorb it. It's gonna exacerbate that alcohol content. So that's actually a fun, interesting way to get
Fun
wasted.
facts. Yeah. Dun dunks.
So,
That's the way to do
Crescent,
it.
you went to a wedding yesterday? Did you bring Oreos to the wedding?
Oh no, I didn't even think about it.
Well,
Should've.
that's a lost opportunity. You should
Yeah.
everyone, let's try this. And just like throwing them out. Like,
toss
you
them
get up
out.
in front. Hold on, everyone. Like, I know that the best man's supposed to give his toast right now, but Oreos. Just, like,
Yeah.
toss them
Yeah,
out.
what I could have done is just given them to him because he was sitting at my table, and he's a buddy, and
Yeah.
so I should have just been like,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Just,
That would have been
need
so
to-
funny. So next time I
Yeah.
go to a wedding, it's just gonna smuggle in like all my coat jackets be lined with Oreos. Yeah.
this is the new thing.
Oreos."
Yeah.
You're like, are you a spokesman for like Nabisco? I'm like, no.
No.
This is awesome.
I
think that's
still
who makes
feel
Oreos. I'm
somebody
not sure.
should have. Yeah, it is David. Or is it Chris? No, I think it is. I don't know. Now I'm second guessing myself.
Does it really matter? No.
We should have bought stocks, though. Somebody should have bought stocks in Oreos before any of this happened.
Yeah.
That now we've got hundreds of us
We
being
should,
like,
we should
"Yeah."
try harder to make this a thing. Like even hard. Like you guys have been trying hard, but let's dedicate just all our podcast power to get this
Just
one.
this.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
it. Like this is how we close and open every episode. We have an
This
ad
is-
for it, like in the middle of the
Yep.
episode. Which is
Well-
like, it just
Yeah,
keeps going.
mid-roll ads.
At this point, we do have what Howler Pod have both done it. Words and Whiskey, they've both done it. So
If
then
Words and
we've
Whiskey
got
didn't do
we've.
it, that would be problematic.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I
But
think
yeah.
I've seen videos of everyone partaking on Instagram
Yeah.
of this happening. So yeah.
Yeah. So we've got 4 podcasts together. We can we'll just spread it
I'm gonna
out.
convince the other
combined.
two. I was just gonna convince the other two. That's not that hard. We already got 50% on board. We're good.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We're doing great. It's great. That's so funny. Well, thanks for doing that. Crescent, what are you drinking today? Do you have drink?
I'm drinking water.
Ah.
That's good. I agree with this.
I have a hangover.
Oh yeah, you have a hangover. I am doing sober September because the den's all being healthy in September. So I have
The rat war, yeah.
non-alcoholic amaretto sours, and I could not for the longest time figure out what they actually taste like, because if you were to be handed this, it's not an amaretto sour. And then someone I sail with realized it's angel food cake is what it actually tastes like. So it's like
Interesting.
liquefied angel food cake, or like the
Isn't that
confetti cake. Yeah, it's super sweet.
Oh, super sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I have an obsession with hard kombucha.
Yeah.
Is that a thing for Canadians? Is kombucha a thing?
It's up here. I
Yeah,
have not
it's
really
not.
had it, but
I've tried it one time.
mhm.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Californians have like these really douchey like trends, and so like avocados is definitely the ever-present douchey trend. Putting it on all sorts of things, salsa, like all the various types of salsa.
Yeah.
Always like trying to be really hyper creative and kind of douchey with that. And like the hard seltzers, hard kombuchas, all
Mhm.
that like in very designer kind of ways. It's just always like it's always an eye roll, but then I always partake in all of it, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, but
awesome.
it's cool.
Yeah, I haven't really done Twist from Fabled Spirits. Loves kombucha and is trying to always get me on
So
them,
good.
and I'm like, sure, I haven't had it
Yeah.
really. So
Yeah, it's kind of like busy.
fizzy.
Yeah, there you go.
Quite the description.
It tastes like it's got a buzz.
It does give you
Mm.
like it tastes like that, but it doesn't really give you that buzz, which is kind of the fun of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'll
Um,
have to do it.
yeah, so I am glad that we're all enjoying our drinks. I asked you this off podcast, so I don't want to make this sound like it's a aha organic thing.
Yeah.
I asked if I could ask you a question, both of you.
Yes.
Actually, it's not even a question. It is a series of questions that are part of a greater thought. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I feel that both of you are probably going to be the best representation of people to ask in this instance. So forgive me
Okay.
if this is laborious. Forgive me if this is eye rolly, but I guess the series of questions I ask is, because you are so plugged into the den,
Mhm.
how often do you visit the Red Rising Reddit?
Oh, rarely.
Rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Reddit did a bad, and they're charging to use their API, and so it killed a bunch of better apps.
Yeah.
And so I've basically
You just
stopped
feel like,
using Reddit
I'm done with Reddit.
since
Yeah.
they killed it. But even before then, like, I mean, it would come across my feed, but I would almost never like actively go in there. Like,
Yeah.
if I search something for Red Rising, and the subreddit comes on or
Yeah.
comes up, I'll look at it. But
You might entertain it for a minute. And you're like,
Yeah. I
Well,
feel
I
like
think
back in the day, because of Twitter, like I was super active, still a little bit, or X, whatever we're calling Twitter now. But that's how I made all of my Howler friends way back, and like when Morningstar came out was through Twitter, and then you would go on to Reddit from there, just like to have those bigger conversations. And so I do have somewhere I read through and did all the pop culture of the first 3 books, every pop culture reference I could do. So that was like my Red Rising Reddit kind of in there. And then whenever Pierce would do the AMAs. But other than that,
Yeah.
it's like every once in a while, if I'm searching for something and the wiki doesn't have it, and I'm like, what was that one thing? Usually Reddit
good for
has
that.
the answer. Yeah. But I don't actively go on kind of
Yeah,
every.
I'm not active, and I think that you both have this experience with the den, so I guess I could have probably asked this question a different way, but what I am seeing every day, I've been checking it every day since like Lightbringer essentially not came out, but like after it was like at this 1 to 2 week period of it being out, so everyone's finishing the book, right? And not everyone, but a lot of people are getting to this place where, they don't have a podcast partner. They don't have maybe even some friends to process the book with. And there's a lot to process in this book, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a huge book. So spoilers, Lightbringer spoilers right now. I know that
Yeah.
you guys are a spoiler show, but still
Yep.
want to make that clear. So I have been fascinated by the experience, and you guys probably see this in the den, of people each day, there's someone new finishing Lightbringer and willing to get on and share this explosion of emotion. Whether it is for Cassius, whether it is against Lysander, whether it is for or against Quicksilver, because those I think are the 3 like the hot button kind of characters in this book that have raised the most controversy. And I've just been fascinated by that process. Is that happened a lot in the den for all of you? And what is that like for the 2 of you when you come across that reader finishing?
A lot of the time, so we have a
Because you guys finished the book like way in advance.
Way
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
like,
were
before anyone I
done
have knew.
mid-April.
Yeah,
Then I had to wait a month to talk to
I've
Skipper
heard
about
this.
it.
I've heard the animosity towards Skipper. I know.
Oops. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
It's okay.
But yeah, so like we have the whole book broken out into 10 chapter sections in the den, and then we have a channel that's just called "I have finished Lightbringer."
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so you'll see somebody come in, and the first thing we do is it's like, all right, welcome in here, have a blanket, have some tea.
Here's a box of tissues.
Take a load off, yeah. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really funny to see people's reaction. It's like some people just come in and they're like, okay, I'm done. And then I forget who it was. And it was like they came in full capitals, like, what the fuck? My boy is gone. And we were like, okay. Like the rage room is down the hall to the left. Like, just go rant it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you have the rage room. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so then it's like, it is really interesting to see all of that, and the people who immediately like we had to start a new thread because I was the one who I don't like theorizing, and people immediately are like, I'm done and this is what I think is going to be in Red God, and I was like, no, you get a new thread because I don't want to see your theories. So it's really interesting, and then we have had people join the den just because they've seen it around and they're like, I need to talk to people.
Yeah.
So it is
healthy. It's healthy.
Yeah.
And they need somewhere to process that, and whether that's their keyboard or that's other people through their keyboard or through a voice channel. Like,
Yeah.
it's really needed. Like, I think that Reddit, for a lot of people is that access. The Howler's Den is serving as that access. I
Yeah.
think to a much lesser extent, ours and other discords are serving as that. I think that it's cool that people are coming to that healthy place, but a healthy place to process, I guess. What I have noticed is that I've thought this. It's kind of put me on my toes a little bit, and thought like, am I reading this book wrong? Because like there is a chorus of people that all share. I think we all kind of share this experience of Lysander sucks. We want him to go down. We hate his injustice. We hate his acts of evil, and then we feel sorrow. The majority of people, we feel sorrow for Cassius, for Darrow, for like that outcome is pretty universal. But I think that like what I'm seeing that is so interesting is, and I mean no offense by this, but I was like, I wonder if like I can't help but feel a little bit more like an observer, and it made me think that because even though I had strong feelings towards it, I was thinking, what is coloring this emotion? What is coloring this hatred? And it's like, if I'm told that I'm a Howler by Pierce and by so many others, it's reinforced to me, do I read these books? Am I supposed to read these books as a Howler? Is that how I'm supposed to like partake in this series? Is it so where when I meet an adversary on a page, do I have that same feeling that a Screwface would? Like, do you like Skipper or Crescent, do you read the books exactly that way? As that no matter how complex that antagonist is it just like that visceral hatred because you are a Howler when you read the book? Yeah.
I think for me, especially my first read through of Iron Gold, like I think back to it, of how much I disliked Lyria and Ephraim because they complained so much about Darrow. And even though they are like Ephraim's gray area, but Lyria, like you look and you're like, yeah, she's in a refugee camp. Like she's had a shit life because of him. And you sit there and I'm like, why are you complaining? Like Darrow saved you. Like, and it's one of those. So I think I did get my back up the first time through Iron Gold and Dark Age. And then it was on the reread that I was like, okay, like I can see her point of view. I can see everything. So I think I do, especially that first read through of those, read it as a Howler and very defensive. But I think Lightbringer, I was very much team Severo. And like some people are like complaining about like, oh, Severo, like he's mad at Darrow, he's super like emo and moody and Lightbringer. And it's like, yeah, he deserves to be. He's been taken on this whole journey. So I feel like Lightbringer this time around, I wasn't as Howler, but maybe because at that point the Howlers have split. Obviously, Severo is a Howler and is feeling different. Right. But like Lysander in this one, I felt for him until the end. But I was like, you're getting played around so much. You don't have like a good core group. Like, and I felt bad for him. And then at the end, I was like, well, no, now you've screwed over. You're like the person who raised you. So now I dislike you. But yeah, I don't know.
Is that for you, Skipper? Is that because do you feel like you read Lightbringer differently in this sense because you're now a host of a podcast and therefore your responsibility is to be a little bit more impartial, analytical towards it? Or is that just you think that was your actual reading of the story this time? Like, what changed?
I don't know. That's a good call out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never thought about it.
I think that way I read the books is drastically different than I used to. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to say that we're elevated because both of us had podcasts. So therefore, we were on this another level. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying I'm asking the question, like how people read it versus how I read it, and what is the difference? Because the emotion that I had, I really do genuinely want to get to Crescent. I want to ask the questions too. But when I finished Lightbringer, the last few chapters, right? And I want to hear what you both have to say. I wasn't mad at Lysander because I couldn't think about anyone else but Cassius. I couldn't think about anything else. Like, I was mortified in the moment of the reading, but when I was done, it was just, my thought was just purely on one person, one thing, one idea of the book, and how much of a hero and how much admiration and how much literal, actual, physical, and emotional sadness I had about Cassius. And so, like, it just, I had a hard time even, like, thinking about, like, who cares about Lysander, right?
Yeah.
In a way, like, even though he's the one who did that, but it's like, look at our guy. Like, our guy. Like, I can't, that's what I felt like I was attending a funeral.
Yes.
And in a way. So, like, and sometimes in a funeral space, you don't really care how they died. You just care that they are gone. And that's how I felt. But obviously, a lot of people, I think that I'm in the minority on that from what I've seen on Reddit, right? Like, what I see on these spaces that they come in hot and they're like, blah, blah, like, I can't believe that effing, like, little brat. Like, and it's like, yeah, like, I understand that fully. But that wasn't my sentiment. Like, Crescent, like, is it, one, what was your emotionality? I know I don't want to spoil anything for your future podcasts either, because I know you guys are going to talk about this, but I actually am just asking purely about the emotion that you experienced rather than the story breakdown.
Yeah, I think you've probably got it close. Like, for me, it was like, yeah, immediate spike of anger at Lysander, but then it was just like the trailing sadness down the other side for the rest of the book, and it was just,
it's hard to kick that out.
Yeah.
It was hard to shake, because you had what, chapter 84 is Hanger 17b, and then what, the book continues for another 4 to 5 chapters.
5 chapters. Yeah,
5 chapters, 89 chapters. Yeah, and it's like, I had to reread literally the last like 10 chapters of the book, because it was just, I felt like I was a ghost reading the last 4 or 5 chapters, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I
had to like re-internalize all that again, so that way I could pick it up and talk about it on a microphone. So it was tough. But do you feel like, Crescent? Do you feel like the podcaster hat that you have to wear interferes with like how you like would natively react to the story, or does your Howler persona interfere with how you interact with the story at all?
I don't think that the podcast hat does. I have been very vocally anti-Lysander on the podcast.
Yeah, I know that. I've heard you say it many times. Yeah. No, it's okay. I'm here for it. I'm just
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'd never thought about it like viewing it as a Howler. And I think I think that probably is, because I feel pretty black and white about it.
Yeah.
Like, good guy's good, bad guy's bad.
Yeah.
But going back through it, definitely a little more shades of gray.
Crescent, then, because of that black and white nature, because I see the story I think I see it like far more gray. Like, that's where you and I would differ. But so I'm gonna preface this, but I'm gonna put my opinion in, but I want you to like think about the character of Ajax before I start talking in Lightbringer, so that way I'm not coloring your opinion like before I start talking. So Ajax, just capture that image of that character in your head right now and how you feel about him. But in Dark Age, he sucks. Like, he absolutely sucks. And he's easily, I think, the worst character, the least likable character over Atalantia for me in that book. And maybe even over Harmony in that book. I'm not sure. That's really tight race in that worst character category. Because I think Lysander's way below both Harmony and
for sure.
In that book, right? In that space.
Yeah.
But when we learned things, or rather, I think things were reinforced for us for Ajax, like in that book. Like, his mother's gone. We've known that for a long time. But then his dad, like, you see like the actual like negligence and emotional abuse that his dad actually is casting upon him. Like, he has no parental figure, and the only parental figure that he does in fact have is a sexually and emotionally abusive aunt.
Yeah.
And so, like, when he finally steps outside of that and makes a choice, because he never had a Darrow Darrow is such an awesome character for me, for one sole purpose. He extends the hand. Like, that's the best thing he does. come here, Ragnar, come here, Roke, come here, Tactus. And like one of those, Roke denied that opportunity, right? But that's his best attribute, is him always offering the hand, no matter what the sin is.
Yeah.
Like he's willing to take that sin back on. And Ajax doesn't get there because he's never had that character to do it. But in the most micro way possible, because I won't give Alexander any credit, he kind of does that for Ajax, just the littlest bit. And Ajax steps outside of himself, and then he doesn't get to carry out. We don't even know what he would become as a individual. He just dies very suddenly, almost quasi off page.
Yeah.
And I had great sorrow for that. I was actually sad, which is so stunning to me because I spent all of Dark Age actively disliking the character.
Yeah.
And when we talked to Pierce, we met him and we were hanging out in the hallway between our session, and he was asking us, pelting us with questions about how he felt about parts in Lightbringer. And I volunteered, though. I was like, dude, like that Ajax thing sucked. And he was just like, yeah, it did, huh? I'm like, because he knew what I meant by that. Like he knew what I and he was just, we were both like riding the same wave of like, it just really blowed that like we didn't get to see this potential. And that potential would most likely have great negativity towards our protagonists, right? But there was still something there that you wanted to see manifest somehow, even if it was for evil, because you saw there was a little bit of that there's a spark there.
Yeah.
And
the seed was blooming.
Yeah, and we don't know.
Yeah,
and we don't know where it was going to go. But I was sad, and I was like, why am I sad about this? A Howler would experience that as like, this is dope. Like this guy's dead, because like
that was me.
That was
100%.
But here's I guess like for me, I guess the disconnect, not problem, but the disconnect is like, I'm not a Howler in the sense that like I have a top-down worldview, and like they can't help but have an in-world view where like no matter the emotional, physical, mental abuse or problems, Ajax is not an individual. He's an enemy exclusively to a Howler, to a Screwface, to a Mustang, to a Holiday, whatever that might be. It's like, is that how I'm supposed to see Ajax, or am I supposed to be the reader? And am I supposed to just experience him as? Am I supposed to have sorrow for him? Like, I don't know. I'm not even telling you I'm right. I'm telling you that this is my emotion, right? Like, and I'm just seeing like what I'm seeing on Reddit is that I guess I'm experiencing that. I think that most people do read the book like a Howler, and that's how they see it, and they see it that more black and white way. And I'm kind of trying to understand: am I doing this wrong? Like in a way.
Well, and I think though Ajax, it's a difficult one of like. I agree with you. Like, there is part of me that thought that him and Lysander teaming up, finally kind of getting, their found family would...
Like Victra and someone else would. Right?
Yeah, would, maybe sway them over, would maybe not fully sway them over, but at least have that, like, whatever that vision that we know Lysander's parents... died for, maybe getting them to that or something. Like there was part of that I spent a lot of, especially rereading Dark Age and then continued into Lightbringer, of what Lysander is missing, that the Howlers have this found family and he doesn't, and his family that's still kicking around is terrible, and Ajax could have been that. But I would say Ajax's death for me, I cheered, but because it was how Victra, my favorite character, did it, and it was like you wanted Victra. I really went into that book wanting something of, I mean, and the Avengers do it so cheesy, but that like she's not alone moment of all the women teaming up, and that's what that was. So for me, Mustang just had her moment. And then having Thrax and Victra team up and have that epic moment, Ajax is then just the victim of it, of like, and then of course Victra walking in and being like, the rest of him couldn't make it as she's carrying the head. Like, it's just, that was so epic, but I don't necessarily know if it could have been anyone, I think, in that moment, and I would have cheered, because, yeah, as you say, like, I did want Lysander. There's a whole bet happening in the den on whether or not he'd get a redemption arc. And I don't think, I ever thought he would actually get it, but I wanted him to, and I thought that Ajax might have been that step towards it.
Yeah. I think we need to redefine what redemption could even be for Lysander. That's a whole other topic. I don't think that like redemption in the traditional sense is even on the table right now at all.
No.
But I think we have to, if there is redemption, it needs to be completely redefined. Like back to Ajax, though, that is the scary part. Because I knew a mega character death was coming, I had my heart was literally pounding, thinking, Victor is one of my 3 to 4 favorite characters in this series that I am incredibly invested in. Is this the last time I will be able to encounter her? I was scared. So it was the weird mixture was it was relief and sadness at the same time. And I'm still trying to, and on my reread, which I'm in the young stages of, like I'm on like the 9th chapter, because I gave myself a break. I read 1984 for the first time, and I read a few Steinbeck novels just to give myself a break. But I'm curious how I'm going to encounter that again. I'm curious if like what hat is going to be the primary one. Is it the Howler one? Is it the podcaster one? Is it the Philip one? Like how when I come to these like kind of grander, more like landmark moments of the series, like how am I going to see him after that initial reaction is always going to be the most visceral. It's always going to be the most emotionally charged. But I'm curious, and you've both read it more than once now, correct?
Yeah, I'm through 3 times.
Yeah. And then what was the experience, Crescent, when you were like hitting the book the second and third time? Like what as far as those like landmark moments where like something major happens, is it the same emotion, just lesser because you already knew it was coming, or what was it like?
Great question. I would, probably a little bit just kind of muted.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I was driving out of where was I leaving? Kansas City. I was leaving Kansas City on my way home, and
From HowlerCon, right?
I listened to the
I heard the story.
I listened to the end of the book, and I still just bawling driving down the interstate,
as you should.
And it was the like Cassius's funeral scene, not the
in the Archimedes.
Death. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it's it is definitely kind of the same feelings, muted a little bit, but it's far less black and white for me.
What makes it like? I'm curious. This is all pure curiosity, because I don't get to talk to anyone outside of Jeremy about the series typically. So what has made it a little bit more gray then in that case? Because you said less black and white.
Oh,
so
just the distance and time from it.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. So the first time through, it's like I hammered through books.
I know you read it in 3 days or something.
Something insane, yeah.
And then I when I'm doing rereads, it's on audiobook. Mm-hmm. And I listen at 1.5 times.
Oh wow.
And so while I'm working, so I'll get through 12 hours of the book in one day if I'm not distracted or having to do something else. So yeah, the first time it's a lot of it is just like knee-jerk reaction. Like I'm not spending a lot of time like sitting with it and thinking about it. I'm like, okay, what's happening next? And then I kind of do my processing after.
The puzzling of the book is because there's a lot to puzzle out with Fa, with the imposter, with all this different stuff, right? I'm like very curious how the book will be experienced that second time through when I'm not having to try to like the whodunit aspects of the book, which there are more of in this one, I think, than most. I'm really curious how that's going to come about and like how I'll be able to like perceive it, and I'm excited for that. So yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I really like that. I think I had something else I was going to ask Skipper right when I finished talking, but now I can't remember. So Skipper, pick it up for us.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, it's funny. I still haven't actually finished my second read through, just because I'm still treasuring, and at this point I'm just delaying. But I keep saying, like, I was supposed to finish right as I entered Tulsa, and I just didn't, because there was a few times where I throw music on and while driving instead of listening, just so that, stimulation. But so I'm still like 2 hours audio wise from the end of the book, and I haven't finished it, and I think it's because I'm like holding on after HowlerCon, and I know that the death is coming, like it's pretty imminent. That it's like I'm holding on to it, and I know I have to finish, because we're gonna start, we've got like 3 weeks, and then we're gonna start our actually talking about it, so I have to then start the third read through. So I'm like, weird. Yeah, but my thing right now, it's really funny of, I think knowing that big death was coming slightly, and this is why I don't like the Red Rising or the Red God theories or anything like that, because I do think I read the first time every single chapter being like, oh god, this Cavix is dead, Sophocles is dead, Victra is dead. Like everyone, I was like, no, this is it.
That natural assumption.
Yeah, and Crescent had finished the book at this point, so he's getting all my texts, and he's not allowed to react, as I'm like, dear God, like I know this is happening. But I will say that Cassius is set up for death. That what I did call, I obviously correctly, but
a lot of us got there
because it was that like nostalgic. They're back at Lorne's. They were watching the Institute videos. That it was like, oh, and he's gone. And I was never, I don't know. Cassius was never my favorite. I always refer to him as a dolphin. Like, he's a boy who's fun on vacation.
Are not awesome or something? Come on.
No, they're fun when you're on vacation, but you don't want them in your home. So it's the boy you leave. Like, he's a fuck boy is what it is. Right? Okay. You don't want them in your home. And it was during Lightbringer was the moment. And I messaged Crescent and was like, oh God, he's making me like Cassius. And then it's like a few chapters after that, and I was like, Cassius is gonna die, isn't he? Like, it was just set up in a way that even we have poor Dram, who hated Cassius going into Lightbringer, and we were all sitting there. She wore a shirt to HowlerCon that said Cassius is a fuckboy, because, and it had a dolphin on the back, because she hadn't finished Lightbringer. And we were all on like watch for her of like, oh God. And then she just sent the message that was like, guys, I can't come on to a third episode. She's been on the podcast twice to bash Cassius. We bring her on just to be that person who hates Cassius. And she ended up messaging us and be like, I can't do that a third time. I don't hate him anymore. And so I think he won all of us over to that effect. But we then, it was one of those like, why do we like you so much? Like, your time's got to be running out. But rather than everyone else knowing that big death was coming, I just, every single thing was like, well, that's going to be the death. And Cavix and Sophocles, I was positive was going to be it. Because when Pierce said it was the hardest death he has ever written, I was like, what's going to be worse than killing a baby, killing the dog, and Cavix? Like, yeah,
one
so
easily
it was
one of the
hard.
most likable characters in his family. It would be pretty tough.
So it's interesting that now reading it through, less stress, that I'm like, Cavix will be back just with a broken back. It'll be fine.
Do you all have members that you talk to regularly of the Den that don't enjoy Lightbringer, that like kind of see it as maybe one of the weaker of the series? Have you seen that kind of taking place on the internet in some places?
The only one I've seen is not somebody who's in the Den, but on our Instagram when we were all ranking Lightbringer, and I did the ranking.
I saw.
Yeah, and someone said, like, first off, I had to delete the comment because they started it with like a full spoiler, being like, great. And I was like, no. And then they're like, why'd you delete that? And I was like, please don't fully spoil on Instagram. But anyway, and they said, like, why is everyone ranking Lightbringer number 1? It's not, like, it's like the worst. And I was like, who are you?
Read the same book.
Yeah, but and like number 2, I would say most people. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been like, what book were you reading? Like,
Yeah.
in terms of like, I know that there was some like convenience in the book in terms of like things kind of fell very favorably at times to some of the protagonists, but it still needs to move forward. It can't be that slow of a burn. Like it's a story. I think there's this like battle, like especially when creators of their IP make something so honest, so earnest, and so I think tangible that it always has to assume that role at all costs, at all times. It's like, well, it is still entertainment. It's still like it does need to go somewhere, and like, and you don't. Do you really want this to be like? Because like, yeah, things might just not. Things don't just always go correct, or or there's not like that adversary that gets in the way, but that beating or unlocking that adversary leads to X point. Like I get that, but that's just storytelling. That's what it always it needs. That it needs that momentum. So I think that people have been critical of that momentum, and I really have kind of. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I just don't. I'm not appreciative of some of those comments because this is fiction, it's a story, but yes, it is very grounded, but it needs to move forward. Like it has to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, they should know momentum is everything to a Helldiver.
Right? Boom. Dropping knowledge over here.
There you go. I do feel that in some ways as well, and it's funny because when the Den was doing the read through of Dark Age, it was this whole thing that I was like, guys, stop being so negative about it, because especially there was people who were reading for the first time Dark Age along with everyone reading through, and everyone's like, it's okay, we'll be here to support you. And it's like, yes, Dark Age is obviously, it's dark, it's got the name right there, it's the hard one, but it has to be so that our characters have their breaking point that then they can then come back up. Like that's just how storytelling works, that we can't just have happy the whole time or else we would not care. Like it's why we like the end of Golden Sun and like even the beginning of Morning Star, because you need that to then have them come through up on the other side.
Yeah, I totally agree. It needs to have a rhythm. It needs to have some sort of up and down flow in order for it to, and even inside a single book, it needs to have that. You get that small in Dark Age, you have the moment of Harmony getting kicked into the pit viper nest. Like that's a spike in that rhythm, and like that's the crescendo. And you need that to counterbalance all the other stuff.
Everything else. Oh God. Yeah.
I've not. It's opinions. Like I can't like say that opinions. They're their own, and I'm not gonna judge. I'm not going to fully judge an opinion, but I'm just like, I've been questioning. It's all great. Goes back to that idea that I talked about previously that I was kind of curious about how you guys internalize the books, read the books. It's like, how do people read and what are they seeing that maybe I'm not seeing? And how can I gain something by learning and listening? But at the same time, and it's just like, it's hard not to just turn off that like real impulsive, like, what are you talking about? Like what book, like, you like Lightbringer, right? Like same title. Like we're good here. Like
like
one with the horse on the front.
Did you actually read the one by Brent Weeks?
Because I'm sure that's a common book title, right?
Yeah.
Like,
there is a few of them.
There's
there's
a series of books called Lightbringer.
Yeah, in fantasy.
And I know both of you ranked it as number 1, right?
Yes.
It's your favorite book now.
Yeah.
And it dethroned Golden Sun.
Correct.
For you, it dethroned Dark Age, Crescent?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. What about if you're just doing those 2 books, Skipper, like those 2?
Yeah.
Like how did Lightbringer supplant or overcome the Golden Sun? Because that's a second book of the series. It came out 2015, 16. It's been there for a long time, I'm guessing. So how did that like pyramid that other one?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. Well, I mean, Pierce talked about Lightbringer getting back to kind of the roots, and the things I love about Golden Sun is the character building and the world building that it brings out, and that relationships that we see in Golden Sun, of you finally obviously understanding who he's aligned himself with, Victra is my favorite of all time, and we get her, but also like how he's interacting with Roke, with Mustang. You get that back and forth between them of will they, won't they, all of that. And yeah, for sure. But that tension between all the friends, and you're seeing that also in Lightbringer, especially with Severo and Darrow, Severo and everybody. But then, also Darrow having to be put in his place for his crimes, and maybe he's not the best thing ever, which is kind of mirrors in Golden Sun. So Lightbringer to me has a lot of the things that Golden Sun did, and then it goes on a grander scale. And same with Golden Sun, I like that it's no longer in this small, I mean, obviously we get the mines to the Institute, but we don't really see much of the actual world. Golden Sun is what then blows it up of this is a whole solar system. And Lightbringer, like we've seen the Rim before, but not to the extent of all of the different things. The joke that Crescent and Salem love to make at me is it was Lightbringer that I finally realized that all the planets move. That I was like, right, yeah. Saturn and Jupiter are not side by side, because it was like, it's so much bigger and you're seeing all the moving parts that like Golden Sun did that and then became my favorite, I think, because it introduced all those moving parts that Lightbringer just went tenfold on it, that it's like, right, there's so many things to keep track of, including maybe where Saturn and Jupiter are. Yeah. Still confused about that, but still, yeah.
I want to know, because I'm always so curious. Crescent, how did it top Dark Age? For me, you're a Cassius fan, like I am. Are you a huge Cassius fan, like I am? Is that what it is?
Not quite.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I interrupted
but
you.
Like, no, that's all right. Yeah, no, like I'm a Cassius fan, absolutely. But I'm first and foremost a Darrow fan. Mm-hmm. And, I really liked Dark Age. He was, at the beginning of the book, obviously he was in rare form.
The prologue
just
might be the best single chapter he's written, by the way, of Dark Age. Mm-hmm. Like, it's really incredibly written. So I'd agree with you on
that. Mm-hmm. But like Darrow is like, he's got his War God on, in the beginning of actually most of the book, honestly, and then towards the end of the book, he gets his ass beat, and Lightbringer is basically all about him coming back, and coming back to the form of the Reaper, like, mm-hmm. but he is introspective. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard for me to articulate, I think.
Yeah. I think for Darrow fans like myself, because Darrow and Cassius kind of ride the same plane for me. I think that what I've seen, in like what little I've seen, because I just via maybe Reddit or whatever, is that, or maybe I'm projecting, but I'll project. Is Darrow has been a manipulator in a lot of ways, and manipulation doesn't mean bad, right? It means that he just is like at the head of something, and he has to be. That's his role, is to manipulate a circumstance. Mm-hmm. And then he's finally learning how to not do that, like how to actually let things come more naturally. I think the Breath of Stone chapter was so wonderful because the wind, he was allowing the wind and the Breath of Stone to control him, and he was letting that maneuver him. And so he's like, I think he says something to the effect is like, even if I mess up, I can take that flow and turn it into a new flow. Like I can allow something to move me, and I'm not always trying to be the master of something, because he's always trying to be. He's told that he had to be. Dancer told him that, and he's always had that in his head that he has to be in command. And now he's finally learning that that's not necessarily the case. I think that for me as a huge Darrow fan was really, it was a beautiful sentiment, but also like I think at the core of what Lightbringer represented. And I think it was so needed for the character. So I think that is the way that I think one of the ways he came back, right? Yeah. He came back by allowing circumstances to not to always have mastery over circumstance, but like to allow things to come naturally and to breathe it in and breathe it out and see where it took him, like where the path will lead him, so to speak. Yeah. There's a beauty in that. There's a simplicity in that he's always rejected. And to see him live life like the rest of us is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, he's always never lived like you, me, or Skipper. He's always lived life like I have to be controlling, like change the paradigm, right? The classic Darrow thing. It's like no longer has to change the paradigm. Like the paradigm is the paradigm. Like just let it roll. Let it rip.
Yeah.
I love that about him in that book.
Yeah. I think also him with the Daughters of Ares, where he's finally like, you know what? I do things wrong, right? And him having to admit with like what happened with Ganymede and everything else and the selling out of the daughters of like it's something very new that we don't really see in him. Like he just continues to defend everything he always does, and in that moment he's like, you know what? Yeah. Like I had to make the choice.
Let's change
that
the paradigm.
yeah, like yeah. But you know, he had to make the choice that he did, but that hurt a lot of people, and he, you know, owns up to it of like, yeah, you have total reason to absolutely hate me, and I love that part of it of like, you know what, he's coming to his own realization in quite a few ways.
Yeah, that's like it's the beauty of the book, I think, right? It's like you can kind of put it in all what you just said. Is that's what makes it so special, and like that's why I have an issue, like a personal issue. It's not like I'm not making some sort of weird declaration. If you don't like Lightbringer,
you're out. You're dead to me. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, but if you like, this is like so much of what the books. It's like it's being able to be with Darrow, actually have someone you know really well, whether fiction or not, and get to see them progress. Like that's like really important if you were to be invested in a story. Having progression and like towards the positive is there's such payoff in that. So like when you say like, oh, Lightbringer I'm kind of sour on it. Like how can you reject that part of it? Because that is the core of the book. It's like seeing this person kind of grow up in a way and accept responsibility, like you were saying, Skipper.
Yeah. And a Leviathan. Come on. Exploding out of a Leviathan. You can't go wrong.
Like the creatures.
I love my creatures. I know. It's not a Kraken, but it's fine.
Yeah, no more. I'm not going to tolerate Lightbringer slander anymore. I'm just getting really mad about it. Get really crazy.
No. Those must all be Lysander lovers who were proven wrong. That's what we're going to put that as.
So that's the thing is we actually addressed Lysander pretty, like, I guess, to kind of, I never fully gave this away, but I think I probably hinted at it just through the conversation. Like, Jeremy and I think, read the books and talk about them as more of as observers rather than howlers. And we really let that gray wash over us. And we judge the action kind of impartially. And that's just what we're like as readers. Like, that is not something that we are attempting to do. That is just actually our personality. Yeah. And we got a lot of pushback on our takes on Lysander. And that's fine. Because I think a lot of people were validated in their hatred towards him. And that's fine too. But I said on our podcast, like, all we did was hope that he could do something better with the opportunities. Like, that's all we did. We weren't like going, he's so cool and he's dope and he's like I love him. And no, we were like saying he's walking down a road that looks promising. Yeah. But what does he do by about the 60th chapter? He starts a process of rejection towards those opportunities. And then he obviously kicks that personification in the teeth and breaks all those teeth by the end of the book. Like, he just denies that virtue in full force. So, like, but people were nagging on us for that. And I'm totally okay with it. If you want to consider that a win for yourself, that's great. Like, honestly, like, I'm okay with being wrong. But I love that's one of the things I love about the book is kind of starting over with Lysander, allowing myself to not like think of him as Dark Age Lysander, but maybe there's opportunity here. Mm-hmm. And Pierce lulls you if you read this book a little more objectively. I guess maybe you got lulled into a sense of potential redemption, to use the buzzword. And then it was literally the rug was completely pulled out from underneath you. And I actually liked that. I liked getting the rug pulled out from underneath me. I liked this, like, the startling awakening from that. I actually weirdly enjoyed that process. Yeah. Thinking he could be something more. He could live for more. Mm-hmm. Like, nah, can't.
Nah. No. No. Yeah.
I was definitely like obviously vocally anti-Lysander, and even I through chapter 83 into 84, I was like, is this about to happen right now? Like, is he about to become a good guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The opportunity
Nope.
is like present. Yeah.
It's yeah, it was very close. Well, and especially like when you look at, I don't know, people are obsessed with there's one big bad, and who is the big bad that Darrow's gonna have to kill to make it all better. And you know, a lot of people have decided like, oh, it's not gonna be Lysander.
OG Red Rising joke right there.
Yeah. Who, like, it's not going to be Lysander that they have, you know, a duel and then that solves all of our solar system, you know, war, is because first off, Lysander would just pull a gun. But, but, a lot of people have said, like, Atlantia, would be, or then Fa for the longest time. It's like, well, that's who he's really going after. So I think then we were lulled into this, like, so Lysander could in fact be either an ally or similar to like the Rim, where they're just kind of out there removed, let them go back to hanging out on their own. So then when we're seeing that in, you know, their meeting, and then, you know, the meeting with Diomedes, Lysander and Darrow, you're like, oh, well, maybe he looks up to Diomedes. Is this gonna work? And then Cassius going over and being like, hey, bud, like, I think we were kind of almost lulled into this, like, yeah, like, he could flip, or at least just remove himself from the situation so that Darrow only has to go after Atlantia. And then it was like, no, just kidding. He is the big bad. Like,
yeah. I guess the argument that I had against that Jeremy and I talked about on Hail Reaper was Pierce is a fantastic writer, and he can kind of do. I feel like he can almost do anything he wants, and it mostly works, right? Because he's just so good. Yeah. And I think that currently the best science fiction writer we have.
Yeah.
But what archetype does Lysander fill as a protagonist? Like, it doesn't really work.
No.
Right? Like, even if you bring him in, he's like there. It's like, why? And in terms of just storytelling, right? In terms of just that function, it's like, what does he do? Like, I mean, a lot of characters were sidelined almost out of necessity for the story to, like, Pax is sidelined really hard. Every Howler, whether dead or alive, is sidelined really hard. Like, Callaway's HR is sidelined really hard. You know, you have like these brief appearances from characters because that's not the story that Lightbringer is telling. But if you go to the end of the book and you, like, let's say like around chapter 83, you have Lysander flip. It doesn't really, what does it do for the character and the story? It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Like, what is he doing? What is he doing as a protagonist? Like, probably not a lot. Like, he can't be in charge.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have any equity either. Like, that as a protagonist, he doesn't have any, like, a lot of people on Mercury like him. Is that his equity? Like, just like a lot of civilians like him on Mercury. Like, there's nothing he can provide to that greater good guy core. So it just doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, so he needs to be in that role that he's in right now.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what happens, because I'm not necessarily ready to be lulled like I was going to Lightbringer, but I am ready for redemption to potentially look very different, like more of a Darth Vader type redemption, if it's going to happen. It'd be like, he's still going to die a villain if that was the case, but it'd be a heroic act as a villain in order to flip something around. Like, that's the only thing that's the only outcome I could see if you know, air quotes, redemption is on the horizon for him. It's in that shape.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Single stuff.
Double stuff.
The real stuff is the Dent Dunk.
Hey, Bottles, what you got there?
Oh, only my favorite combo.
Your favorite combo? What's that?
My favorite whiskey, Jack Daniels, and a non-brand name sandwich cookie.
Wow! Alcohol and non-brand name sandwich cookie? That's some whiskey business!
It sure is, but it's a prime treat that can't be beat. Now why don't you try one, sweet?
What are you waiting for? Turn those non-brand name sandwich cookies into an Awooio today!
Not sponsored by Big Cookie.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you for those are fantastic questions. I love that. I've not. Now I'm gonna be. I feel like over analyzing of like how am I reading this and why. But it's great.
Yeah.
Go back to my
Yeah.
university English lit days of like what is happening
Yeah.
here.
I think it's fun to read the books. Like, I think it's fun because I read the books at one point, like Iron Gold, for example. Like, I read that book the first time I read it, and I was like, and I know both of you know that's my favorite book in the series.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I initially read it as pretty dry, and the first read pretty boring, but I think that the differences, show up on rereads, but also the type of hat you're wearing, like like we talked about, like maybe you kind of just say like you accept the fact that it might be a little bit drier of a narrative, but what else is here? And like ask yourself that question, and what hat can I put on? Because I think that Iron Gold, because I love to talk about this book. Like Iron Gold is the philosophy of Red Rising, like at the core of it. Like it is the reason for so much of the thinking, the ideology, the philosophy of the series. And I didn't see that the first time I read it.
Yeah.
But the first thing, like the second or third, I think third time I read the book, I came across a quote that was on the ranking, that Instagram thing we went back and forth on.
Yeah.
But I put a quote for each of the books when I ranked them.
Mm-hmm.
And Mercy emboldens evil men. And when I read that, I was like, this is everything.
Yeah.
This is this book, but this is this series. Like the idea of that hit me so hard. And one of the thoughts I had was like, I went back to the end of Morningstar. And you remember, like, Darrow's like, I can be a builder. I'm gonna be a builder.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lead. Mustang and I are gonna lead. We're gonna use love and loyalty, compassion, mercy. We're gonna do this differently than Octavia and Nero, and we're gonna be way different than those dudes. And you get to the prologue of Iron Gold, and like, that's not true. Like at all.
Yeah.
Like he's having that. I love the prologue of Iron Gold. Prologue of Iron Gold, prologue of Dark Age. Two of my favorite chapters by Pierce Brown ever.
Yeah.
Hangar 17B is also really up there for me. Like probably like that being my 3 right now. But you see that struggle like right away. You see that like tension with Darrow, like who he wants to be. He wants to be a husband, a father, a builder, but that's not what the world is offering him. It's not what he's not allowed to be that. So that tension and that therefore then exploration from Pierce starts to happen. Is in this world, for our protagonists, is mercy a virtue or a defect? Is mercy something you can hold at the head of a revolution? Is that even possible? I don't know. I have no clue what that. I mean, I want to hear what you might have to say about that before we go, because I want to talk about Iron Gold because I read it as my favorite book, and I wanted to know about some of these ideas here with you both. But can mercy be offered by a protagonist at the head of revolution? And then you have this idea of mercy now starting to sprout out from Iron Gold well into Dark Age. We're even having antagonists such as Kalendora and Lysander having conversations about mercy. Who deserves it and what's the justification for it when they're on Mercury killing civilians?
Right.
Like, they're discussing it now. Not just the protagonists, but the antagonists are discussing the idea of mercy and what it means. And then you have Lightbringer. That's an ever-present thought, too, of what mercy can mean. And you start getting the answers to that question or that exploration from Pierce through Darrow with like the Breath of Stone, with all these things, with what you said, Skipper, with the apology to the Daughters of the Rim, right? You start getting this merciful response from Darrow finally, right? Able to be who he wants to be.
Yeah.
But even in chapter 3 of Lightbringer, he says internally, I highlighted this like 1,000 times. He says, does no mercy go unpunished? Like he's still exploring that for himself. Like, what is mercy in this world? And like, that's why Iron Gold, I think, is the best book in the series, my favorite book, because it is the reason, it is the philosophy, it is the psychology in terms of world building. Iron Gold does world building in abundance because it's not only the Moon Lords, it's not only people on Luna, it's not only the everyday person in a way through Illyria and through Ephraim, but it's the world building of thought of Red Rising. And I think that like I had to learn how to put on a different hat to read that book, I think the way it was intended to be read, because both of you ranked it as the last book in the series. And that's okay. I'm not even upset by that. I know you're both smiling right now, but like I think that it was a challenge, right? So like it was maybe we have to put on a different hat to read different books at different times in our life. We have to like challenge ourselves, because I struggle with that book for the first time a lot too. So like for you though, I listened to the last podcast you did with Jesse, because he's my guy. That guy is awesome.
Oh, we love Jesse. Yeah.
Scarab, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to plug in on this a little bit more. Like, I guess to maybe ask the same question, but maybe give it a second opportunity. Like, why does it rank last in your order? I mean, I know you explained it last time you were on, but I think that I just want to ask. I want to try to get a tiny bit deeper with
Just
it.
a little bit.
If you can. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it kind of goes back, like that first reading of it, especially, like I commented about on this earlier, of Lyria and Ephraim, and then Lysander. Like it was so hard to get into their minds, and especially of people that they don't like Darrow for like good reason. And I was so defensive of him, especially during my first read through, that I think even that stuck through other ones, of even though then I was accepting, especially of Lyria's position, but I still the whole time read through and I'm like, but why not? Like, and it was really hard. I think it is a different it's a different mindset than the first three, because you get that bigger picture because it's different points of view. And then for me, like, I just love I talk like what we see in Golden Sun of them finding their family, and in Iron Gold, like, I'm going against what I said of Dark Age, of like, then they're fighting, and I'm just like, the conflict, I'm like, no, like, it just brings me anxiety almost, Iron Gold, that I'm like, I know why it's happening, but the whole time, I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want it to happen. And I will say, like, it's still like an 8 out of 10 book in my ranking, but the other ones are always far above it, just for for the reasons that I love the series so much, that Iron Gold just doesn't have. I don't know. It's so hard, but
So it's the tension.
The tension for sure.
The tension is exhausting for you, because
yes,
and the tension is ever present because you're being informed by different narrators telling you your tension constantly.
Yeah, and especially then even in and not even like, against Darrow, but like I totally dislike, and it's funny because you're supposed to, but when you know that Ephraim is Philippe and you get the back and forth between Lyria and Ephraim, I'm that person who I don't watch The Office, the show, because they have tension. I don't watch any, like, all of my favorite sitcoms are just the, like, happy, like, like The Good Place, Parks and Rec, The Good Place, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where they just, like, all nicely get along. And then when you learn that, like, Ephraim is playing Lyria in this way, I don't like it. Like, it makes me so tense and, like, anxious. It's I just read Iron Gold the whole time, being like, no. And then at the end, like, when they're questioning Lyria of like, why did you do this? And you're so defensive of her, and you're like, Theodora, why don't you just understand? Like, I don't know. It's just that tension. I can't get over the anxiety of it all.
Yeah, I like that answer, actually. I'm not sure if you explained it like that with Jesse, but I think that gives me a lot more clarity on why. Because if like your personality dictates so much of how you read a book, if you're not like up for that, like if your natural station is I'm in the good place zone all the time, and you're like, here's Iron Gold, like it's just like
no,
it's like no, I'll pass on that, and like I'm cool with that, like because personality dictates again so much of how you internalize that. So I guess I'm curious about Crescent though too. Like I know that you said it took you the longest to read any book. I remember that. And
It was
it the same expression of tension that made that like provided that, or what was it?
No, for me, I think it was just having to. Because like obviously we go from just Darrow to
Yeah, that's
having
hard.
all of our new point of views, having to get into somebody else's head after spending and like because when I started Iron Gold, like I had just come out of the
Morning
first
Star?
three. Like
Yeah,
yeah.
I had 2 months off.
And the first three I was done in 4 days. Like
What?
total.
Wait, what? First 3 books in 4 days?
Yep.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. Wow.
I had them all ebook on my phone.
Yeah.
So like while I was sitting around at work, not like if I
Not
didn't
working.
need to be doing something.
I'm in for it, dude.
A lot of my
That's cool.
job is hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
So like if I didn't have something to do, I was just like flipping, and it's just so easy to just crush through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had just ripped through the first trilogy, and then it's just like,
Why is this different?
now what? Like it's,
Yeah.
it's like stomping on the brakes. Like the pace just
Pace is
slows,
much slower. I agree.
like slows way back down. And obviously like it has to, like it's
because you have to
it's gotta
start
build
over
a-
with
it's got to
3
build
characters.
a new story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it for me. It was hard for me to get invested in new characters. Now I like it way more. And it's not like I ever like disliked it. Like Skipper said, it's still
Yeah.
a great book. But it's comparative.
Yeah.
Like comparing all the books is like trying to.
Yeah.
I think it was Drillbit said like it's trying to pick your favorite kid. Like
Yeah.
so it's putting it last for me is, yes, it's my least favorite, but it's not bad.
I know what you mean. Because I have Dark Age last, and like that's the
Yeah.
inverse of you, right? So, and it's because of I think I'm guess more or less like Skipper in that way, where it's like it's not tension, but it's like heartache. It's like it weighs on me as a person, like
Yeah.
loss weighs on me as a person, and whereas tension weighs on Skipper.
Yeah.
So like Alexander and whoever else, right? Like just like pick
Yep.
Red Doves, pick your poison in that book. Like that weighs on me as a human. So like it's hard for me, but you're like clearly more comfortable with that, which is just like it's not nothing's there's the only difference is that we're just different people.
Yeah.
It's just like so like
Yeah.
and so yeah. And I think Iron Gold, I'm okay with tension. Like I'm really good with tension. Like I like
Yeah.
sports and I like a lot of things that are like bring about that natural expression of tension. And so it's okay, but like loss is like a really hard thing like for me. And like that's also probably why I took Cassius's
Yeah.
death so incredibly hard.
Yeah.
It took me like about a week and a half to really get over that. So yeah, like really like not wake up feeling like I got punched. Like seriously,
Yeah.
like I know that you either both felt the same way, or I'm sure people listening felt something similar. Like you woke up and you're like, oh yeah, Cassius is gone. Like right away, like literally right away.
Yeah.
Because loss really weighs on me as a person.
Yeah. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the different hats. I think
Yeah,
is
I
what
love it.
we're discovering. And that's
Yes.
what I wanted to bring up because you guys are the best people to bring this up with. Because no joke, because you're so active with other people. Like you're able to talk to different people each episode and get a different perspective. And so you, in a way, maybe whether by choice or by transference or whatever, you get that. I think you have maybe probably the most holistic view of all the people in the Red Rising fandom. I want to pay that as a compliment.
Yeah.
But I also think it's genuine as well. I think that Fade to Obsidian and the Howler's Den, and I wanted to say this, I actually like made a note on I'll outline to say this, is that you do this better than anyone else. Like better than Hail Reaper, and I'll just throw it, I'm not going to name anyone, but better than everyone else in the community in terms of just fandom. I wouldn't count Shit Escalates or Lit Escalates as fandom. I think they're a part of it, right?
Yeah.
But fandom, we're fandom, right? you make a space for fans that seems to be much less toxic and much more loving and more like the series. The best tenets of the series, I should say, with what your product. You, the two of you, Salem, and whoever else that I don't know that kind of helps run this greater Howler's Den show. And I wanted to make sure that I said that because I think that it's so well organized, and it's huge. Like you have so many people to hang out with, manage, be a part. That's a part-time job that you both take on, and Salem and whoever else. And I think that you guys do such a good job. I'm thankful that there's a place for people to plug into. So well done.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That means a ton.
Yeah, and especially Salem is so great. I think we have to give her full kudos for it.
Yeah.
She built the whole thing and then just brought us all in along for the ride. And I mean, that's how we started, was just being in the den and being like, we should have a podcast. Why not? Which is why we bring on so many people. But it is so fun to see everybody's reactions and the discussions that are had that are, for the most part, I mean, we won't talk about the time I said I didn't like EO because I got hanged for that one. But for the most part, very, respectful, and everyone's so great about knowing and just wanting to have, as you say, you read these books and you want to talk about them. So it's always fun to have those opinions. And I will say that, it's really interesting if I find myself going through different episodes of, characters I absolutely did not like, and you get somebody on who absolutely loves that character, and then I'm sitting there being like, oh, you've got a good point. You're making me like this person.
That's what's special about what you do. Exactly. You just described it. I was trying to put it into words and you just did it. And I know there's fan activity in other places, but yours is focused on that. And I think that is it there needed to be one, and you provided it, and it's great. So it's it's cool. I want more people to hopefully join the den and come on with you guys, you both. And there's one guest in particular, and I want to shout out them because I thought what they say, what they provide on your podcast is so good. Is the person whose name escapes me, but is leading the rat war.
Badger! Yeah.
Badger is a good take machine.
Oh my
by the
gosh.
way.
Yeah.
So I really have enjoyed when they've been on. And I really enjoyed that listening experience. And but I don't know, I want to say more, but I think that's just about, I want to literally throw, just get my shovel out and keep throwing a little bit more praise on you, but I don't want to be too gushy. I've already been gushy enough about Iron Gold, so I'm good at that. I'm good at overpraising someone. They're like, okay, no, shut up. So, but I like complimenting people because I like when I see things that are done right, because I think so few things are done right. So it's great to see when you guys do it.
Oh, thanks. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
No, I think it's always sincere. Yeah. I'm not just hey, yeah.
Well, if anyone's listening and they want to come on, we are about to start recording all of our Lightbringer. I think we're going to do 5 episodes at a time. So shoot us Instagram or... What did I say?
We're not recording
5 episodes at a time.
Oh
Wow.
my god. He's sitting here for 20 hours. Yes, 5. No, sorry, 5 chapters at a time. So you can shoot us DMs either on Instagram or in the Howler's Den. And we love when people come in, especially when they're passionate. When people are like, I want this. It's really funny that moment people are finishing Lightbringer, they're like, I need to discuss this. And I'm like, okay, you're penciled in. Sure, you're on it. So it's so much fun, and we love getting all of that interaction or else it just, I don't know. It's great. I just love that we have that. And I mean, I think it helps that we came from the den, that was, we were just all in voice comm so much, and we're like, okay, let's just organize a way of talking about it.
Yeah,
so
just make it happen.
Yeah, it's great.
I feel like I should go just because Crescent needs to take a nap or go to sleep because you're 3 hours
No,
ahead.
I honestly I'm only an hour ahead of you, Philip.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm 3 hours.
But no, anytime we're recording, I just yawn constantly.
Yeah.
I used to have. Is it
It's
like a
so
tick?
weird.
Is it a tick?
No.
Is that?
I
I used to
have
have
no
a tick.
idea
I used
why
to have a
it is.
yawning tick for a long time. I used to just yawn like like for no reason. It wasn't even tired, just like yawn. Just like a weird
Yeah.
tick I have. So I get it. Okay. I'm
Well,
done. I'm done talking.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, and
Yeah.
you are welcome back anytime you want.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, if you do, I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of people that you want to get through, but if you're looking, if you don't have someone, just like shoot me a text because I don't
Yeah.
want to take someone else's place, right? So
No.
if you have someone that if you need someone, then hit me up. But I don't want to. I feel like the best thing is to hear the diversity of people's opinions. So I don't
Yeah.
wanna get in the way of that.
Yeah. But we'll let you know when we don't have
Absolutely.
someone. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be
cool.
amazing. Yeah, this has been so much fun. Thank you. You were kind of the one who instigated this whole thing, and so we
Yeah, I
really
needed to be
appreciate
there.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
it's been fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It's been great. Have a good one. Then the music comes in.
Do you ever find yourself alone on Friday nights looking for a snack? A snack that can quench that uncontrollable burning hunger in your stomach? Have you ever wondered what would happen if a
Non-brand name sandwich cookie.
got frisky with some whiskey? Then you get the Den Dunk.
Do the Den Dunk today!